Okay, everyone, thanks for joining today. We're going to take a few more minutes to have other attendees join the session as they connect. We'll get started in 1 or 2 minutes. If you can hear my voice and you can see my screen, I appreciate if you can let me know via the chat or the Q&A section. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for joining today. Let's get started. My name is Gabriel Zeng. I'm product specialist here at Techdinamics, and today we're going to share a webinar on reducing shipping costs without compromising service quality. Um, Today's webinar will include an overview of and discussion of these elements or the elements involved in this kind of objective chasing of keeping a good balance between these two key elements of success. And we're going to take some time into reviewing how to set that up in a TechSHIP environment, run a couple of tests, and review the results. Okay. So first of all, you will surely know that the balance between the shipping cost and the service level is a lifetime struggle for a business in logistics, right? Um, Either if you move too much to one side, you'll be losing on the other one. So obviously, more costly shipping ends up having a better service level, faster services with more features that allow customers to get their packages faster and safer in many cases as well. While at the same time, if the shipping cost is too low, you will have longer shipping times with not as many benefits to offer to customers. So today's webinar will be focusing on the key elements of these two particular cases, shipping cost and service level, focusing on the three elements that we have on screen right now. First of all, being competitive on shipping speed, then being competitive on shipping cost, and then being profitable while achieving both, where you can find the sweet spot of having the best service level possible for the scenario you're trying to cover or the service goals that you have, while at the same time keeping your shipping cost within ranges that are tolerable and profitable for your business. So let's start talking about being competitive on shipping speed, okay? So shipping speed typically has these three main pillars that, um, well, basically relate to it and depend on, which is first of all, when you're shipping is choosing the right service. And when I mean the right service, it's not the best service that might be around in terms of service quality or service features, right? But choosing the right service for what you're actually shipping and who you're shipping to. Depending on the clients you might have as a 3PL, for some of your customers, choosing the right service might be an overnight service, right? While for others could be a ground service. It all depends on the business scenario and strongly depends on the needs of your clients, right? So choosing the right service is a variable, not a constant. And this might require that you do adjustments every now and then once you have defined your plan and set up your environment. But the idea is that you can launch new clients choosing the right service at launch without the need of permanent adjusting or without the need to correct a course after you have lost a lot of time, a lot of money, and um, and obviously a lot of work. So choosing the right service could be different between two clients. So we're going to see how to set up a rate shopping account that takes into account specific needs for specific scenarios. Then the other element here, the other pillar, is meeting service goals. As you ship, you will have to, at some point, depending on through which carriers you're shipping to, what contracts you have with your clients, there are service goals to meet. For example, if you're shipping perishable goods, maybe using ground services as a shipping method is not an option, or it's an option with specific conditions, right? Because a perishable or maybe medical supplies might go bad if they are not transported properly, if they take too long to deliver to from point A to point B, or well, could even put people's health at risk, right? From basic scenarios like shipping chocolate in summer or shipping medical supplies that might need specific conditions, or might be might be needed to be shipped through specific urgent services like standard overnight, for example. Meeting the service goals is also a pillar for shipping, and being competitive on shipping speed while meeting service goals could be a great challenge. So today we're going to see part of the solutions that you can apply for this as well, meeting service goals, having these two scenarios in mind. And then the other pillar, which is last but not the least, is keeping costs at bay, because perfectly, if we wanted a fantastic service and fantastic shipping times, we could just pay for overnight services, air services all the time, and be broke by the end of the month or 2 weeks. So keeping costs at bay, knowing the budget that you have, knowing what are, let's say, what are the ranges that you can risk having when it comes to sacrificing cost in expense of shipping speed or meeting service goals, is a really delicate variable when it comes to shipping speed, because obviously to be competitive, you will surely like to be a faster shipper than anyone else, but that comes with a cost. And sometimes, if your setup is doesn't have proper logic, you might end up paying a lot of extra money that you might have not paid with a proper setup. For example, if you have, let's say, for example, that you have a service goal with one of your clients, one of your customers, that requires you to ship things in 2 days, right? Everything should be shipped today because it's summer and you're shipping chocolate, right? Now, if you're shipping, you could just say, well, I'm going to ship everything 2-day air or 2-day services, right? And that comes with a cost because the carrier will charge you per service level, right? Obviously, there are many more variables, but in a really simplified way, it's not the same to choose 2nd-day air than to choose ground. But the thing is that if ground does cut it in 2 days, why choose 2nd-day air? If you could perfectly cover it with a much cheaper service, achieve the same service level goal, and save a lot of money in the process, right? So keeping costs at bay has a direct relationship with a proper setup. So when it comes to being competitive in shipping cost, and a little bit tied to this last point that we were discussing, shipping cost is related to these three variables as well. The cost versus speed balance, which we already discussed, okay? It's really important to keep a good balance between these two so you can ship as fast as you can in the cheapest option possible, right? And sometimes that might have complexities when it comes to logic, where not everything is fully plain and say, well, everything that's going to zone 3 is going to be, or this service is going to be used, or every order that has, which is international, should use the service and the other ones don't. but there could be specific conditions that you have. Maybe for this company, you're shipping chocolate. Maybe they're not just shipping chocolate. There are other things that are shipped. And you can review, for example, you can apply logic to your rate shopping, which says, well, if there are chocolate SKUs within the order, then apply this logic and don't rate shop anything that makes it in more than 2 days, right? Rather than just have a flat rate shopping setup that goes over regardless of what the contents of the shipments what the contents of the orders are. This takes us to the second point, customer needs. Okay, having a proper setup adjusted to customer needs is what allows you to have this flexibility of saying, well, for customer A, this is my plan. For customer B, this is my plan. Customer C, this is my other plan. While using the same account in the background, but flexibilizing your logic and your plan and setup to cover your customer needs. And also, obviously, being able to cover your shipping costs and properly mark up these shipments to get your cut of the cake. And then obviously the last point here is stay competitive, right? Because obviously uh, shipping is a business, and as a business, it has to make money. Um, so staying competitive takes part in these two main elements that we were discussing at the beginning of the presentation: shipping cost and shipping times. So being able to cover these two properly and efficiently is what's going to let you have that edge over the competition. Now, rate shopping versus fixed carrier and service plans. Okay, so again, if you're not going to be using rate shopping and logic, meaning advanced restrictions or OMR in TechSHIP, you'll have to go through the path of choosing a specific carrier and specific services to what you do. So orders could be coming from the WMS or whichever system you're connecting to TechSHIP with a carrier and a service level. You can pre-assume which service is going to be used or should be used, which in many cases might not be the most efficient option, okay? Of course, if there's an active choice by the customer, right? Where I, as a customer, as an end customer, from a shipping cart, choose to have the shipment sent via, let's say, UPS next day air, right? In that case, there's an active choice from the end customer. I want it shipped this way. The customer might be informed. It's going to take this amount of days. It has this amount of insurance. It covers for A, B, and C if it's not shipped properly and on time, so on and so forth. But if the customer doesn't have an active decision on the carrier and the service, right? And these shipping options are masked as for example, free shipping, expedited shipping, premium shipping, or even based on day thresholds, right? 1 day shipping, 2 day shipping, and regular shipping, let's say. In those cases, the customer is not making an active choice on a service or on a carrier. It's just saying, I want this in 2 days, and that's it. I'm willing to pay this much to have it delivered in 2 days and not free shipping for regular services, right? So you can move from having a fixed carrier and a service within the order to a dynamic rate shopping led with logic in the background, reviewing your order's contents, origin, destination, weight in the package, so many things. We're going to take some time to review these options in a few minutes. But this allows you to say, well, if the customer chose tier A, B, or C from service types, right? 1 day, 2 day, or free shipping, for example, we can configure those in TechSHIP and tell TechSHIP, hey, if the customer chooses this, then rate shop UPS services A, B, and C, or rate shop FedEx services X, Y, and Z, right? So this switch from a fixed structure of carriers and service levels can be changed to a client billing account level structure, where under your client You can have many carriers rate shopping against each other, or a single carrier rate shopping against its own services, trying to find the most cost efficient way to ship. The the most basic rate shopping structure is what we have here in the second section, which is a rates comparison, right? A basic rate shopping configuration allows you to say, well, which is the cheapest option to ship the shipment or this batch, based on origin, destination, weight, dimensions, and maybe a couple more things, right? But what rate shopping does in a basic scenario is that it's compare rates, and it's going to pick the cheapest option out there. And that might be viable for some of your clients. Maybe your clients are not that stressed out into the shipments getting in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days a week, right? And what they want to do is just get things shipped. And that gives you a really, let's say, a really wide range of options in terms of what service levels could be applicable to the shipment, and also how much you can mark up on these orders, right? Because if a customer doesn't have any requirements when it comes to shipping, as long as these get shipped and they get there in a reasonable amount of time, you could perfectly go through the cheapest option, which in 99% of the cases is going to be ground, right? There could be exceptions where you can get an upgraded service level for the same price or similar, and that might be a good option as well. But rates comparison without logic allows you to do this, okay? Get the cheapest option out there, and obviously, based on the markups that you have, make money as you ship. Now, when scenarios are more complex and where you need to review specific cases of, well, for example, again, this customer ships chocolate in summer. This customer ships medical supplies that are no good after 3 days on the road, and risking people's lives if they're used, right? In that case, you begin having logic in your rate shopping. You won't grab ground every single time. You might need to grab other services that comply with the requirements of your clients, while at the same time you're trying to find the cheapest option that does it, right? And not just go arbitrarily, oh, let's ship everything second day air. Let's ship everything first overnight, right? Uh, I would say let's ship everything as fast as we can within the threshold and as cheap as possible, right? As long as it complies with the customer requirements, the end customer won't mind if this flies from one end to the other of the country, if this comes via ground fully throughout the whole end-to-end process. The end customer just wants to get their things in time and in proper conditions. So that's where auto selection with rules comes into play. And advanced rate shopping restrictions, which is the topic we're going to review later, allows you to unleash that power of automation while at the same time complying with all the rules that you might have. Okay. Now, just a quick observation before we jump into the TechSHIP environment and start running a few tests. Okay. Know the following. When you have this type of requirements, right? These exceptions you might have within your business scenarios, these specific requirements for a specific client, all of these, if properly thought, end up in some process which you currently handle manually, okay? Someone sits down, has to review the contents of the order, has to make a choice over that, right? And has to execute the shipment process based on that logic. Now, if a human can think about that and can reason over it and can execute a plan for it, that logic and that process can be imbued into TechSHIP setup. So that thought, which is done once by a human, but needs to be done 1,000 times whenever they come across the same scenario, could be perfectly ported into techSHIP as rate shopping rules, and think about it twice and forget about it later, because techSHIP will already know, oh, when I have this and that SKU within an order, I need to do this and that, different from any other scenario, right? So it takes a little bit of time in the beginning to see which these scenarios are and how you configure those in techSHIP, but it's a one-time setup and a one-time weightlifting. And after that, you just rely on techSHIP. It's like techSHIP, I already told you what the problem is, you figure it out now. And every time something happens, you'll be the watchman. You'll be checking every order as they come through, as you process the orders, and apply the logic that I told you about this specific customer and this specific scenario. All right. So that's what we're going to do in the next part of this webinar. Let's do it. So here we are at the techSHIP portal. Within the client that I'm going to use, I have a FedEx account, which we are going to use for this test. Okay. And what I'm going to do right now is import orders. Okay. I'm going to import an order for rate shopping. We're going to review the result. I'm going to bring a single order in. Okay, just a second. And I'm going to fast import. Obviously, everything that we're doing right now can be perfectly done through the desktop client, depending on how you have operations set up in your environments within the warehouses. You can either do this via the web portal, as you can see right now, or through desktop client. Both applications will end up targeting a specific account in the background and apply the logic within. Okay, so over here, let's do a quick review of the order. This is an order going from our ship from address here is in Ontario. Okay, it's in Mississauga, and this order is going to Winnipeg, right? So it's a long it's a long haul from point A to point B. When it comes to shipment features, we have that this shipment has a large box, 24 by 24 by 24, weighing 8 kilos or 16 pounds. And it has several SKUs within them. Okay, so it has one item 1 and 4 item 2. Unit price is $43, and then unit price for item 2 is 26, right? So we have the unit weight and a couple more things. This is what we have as part of the order. One box, 4 SKUs. Sorry, 5 SKUs. Okay, one SKU of item 1, 4 SKUs of item 2. There are no accessorials on this order, no signature required or others. So it goes as basic as this. One box and a couple more things. Now let's process. Let's give the system a few seconds so we can get the labels from the carrier. We are rate shopping FedEx only in this case, so we can focus in this, but this is obviously portable to any other carriers that you might want to configure and that you might want to have compete against each other. Okay, so as you can see over here, we got the charge, we got the tracking number. We're hitting test API, so this is an important element that you should know. The charges over here might be a little bit unrealistic based on the actual information, but that's how in this particular case FedEx returns the values. Now, how do we know why ground won the rate shopping? Okay, when you click in the order here, you can check the rates tab, and as you can see, you're going to see all the offered services by the carrier, the transit time, and the amount that is to be charged for the shipment. So as you can observe over here, the chosen service was ground, okay, which makes it in 2 days, all right, while other services make it also in 2 days, right? For example, in this case, if I would say, okay, let's have we need to ship everything in 2 day stops, right? And then just for the sake of being sure about it, you say, okay, let's set up the shipments for this customer for second day air, okay, second day. So with a 2-day service, I just assure myself that it's going to make it in 2 days and that's it. If we would have chosen arbitrarily FedEx Today as part of the order carrying service level, we would be wasting a lot of money here, okay? And maybe we can just take it a little bit down when it comes to the values and say, well, let's remove, let's divide this by 10. So maybe the ground shipment was $13 instead of 133, and then the 2-day shipment was $41, right? This is a huge gap between one and the other, okay? I'm not really good at math, but I'm gonna do a quick deal here so we can see the percentage, okay? So it's a 31%, sorry, a 68% difference between one service and the other. You'll be wasting 68% of your shipping budget by arbitrarily choosing today just because it makes it in today's. Wouldn't it be better to just tell the system, hey, just grab anything that makes it in 2 days, tops, right? And then choose the cheapest option. And in this case, it would be ground. If it would be shipping to another region, another area, which gets ground in more than 2 days. For example, in this case, Express Saver makes it in 3 days, right? Let's imagine that ground makes it in 4, right? In that case, it does make sense to choose today and pay that much. Why? Because it's the only service, the cheapest service within the options that makes it in 2 days, right? Obviously, you could go with the 1-day options, but they're more expensive. But this is what I mean. Many times, you could have these intersections, which you don't expect to have when it comes to service level, transit time, and cost. And you could be wasting lots of money if you don't have a proper setup, right? So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this order here, and I'm going to import another one, okay? I'm going to push another order in, and we're going to review a similar scenario, okay? Let's push this order in. We're going to rate shop it as well and see how it works. So this order is also going to Winnipeg. Okay, just let me check. Good. We're going to keep the rates up there. There we go. We have several SKUs within. We're good to go. Let's process this order and see what rate shopping returns. Good, there we have it. Now over here in rates, as you can see, in this case, this is a test API. It's not returning transit time for these orders. Okay. There's a lot of services here that are applicable here as well. Okay. There's intersectionality between both orders. Now, if I wanted to limit these orders by different criteria, I could perfectly define logic for these. And the way I can define this logic is the following. Within the account which processes the order, okay, in this case, I'm going to go straight to the carrier. Just a second. Sorry, straight to the client, which is Gold Enterprises. And I'm going to edit this billing account. So you can see the setup that I currently have, okay? We're going to make slight alterations on the logic of this rate shopping account. So you can get to see how this logic changes affect the results on the rate section, okay? So a couple of things to take into account before jumping into this. For you to be able to rate shop with delivery dates being taken into account, you need to request this to TechSHIP support if you still don't have it to be enabled in your portal, okay? And once it is, when you set up the billing accounts, you need to have these two defined over here, okay? So you need to enable rate shopping, okay? And you need to check rate shop eco check delivery dates, okay? Because this is going to be reviewing delivery dates coming from the carrier. Within carrier options, okay, you might want to adjust different things that might impact rate shopping, okay? For example, in this particular case, we're talking about FedEx, okay? But over here, you could have accessorials. Over here, you could also have address validation, okay, which might have influence into which services are chosen or which services are qualified for shipping. For example, not sending a FedEx ground home shipment via ground, regular ground, okay? And obviously the markup, okay, where you can see, well, let me mark up this shipment this much uh, or not. Now we're going to make a special focus in the restriction section. This is a vanilla setup, okay? When you add a new billing account, after you configure it, the restriction section will have a setup like this. You'll see that over here in filter mode, it says exclude selected codes, and it won't have anything in the list, which means that TechSHIP is not going to exclude any service and by consequence include everything, okay? If at some point you want to make a block list of services that you don't want to consider, you might say, well, I don't want to consider ground, for example. Why? Because it doesn't allow me through this specific carrier to uh, use an accessorial that I need, dry ice. Okay, in this case, well, it doesn't make sense in this particular case. But let's say that, I don't know, shipments are too heavy and I don't want to ship them via air. So I want to block first overnight and priority overnight, right? So if I apply this setup and I save it, okay, what I might want to do is remove these automatically from here, from rate shopping. If I save this setup over here, first overnight and priority overnight to be excluded, I will save it right now. I'm going to void this batch and I'm going to reprocess again. And we shouldn't be seeing these two services now because we actively chose to exclude these from the rate shopping options. Let's give it a moment so it can reprocess. Let's review the rates. So as you can see, these are gone. Okay, we had the 6 options here, and now let me go back to the account. First overnight and priority overnight are out of the game. Okay, these are fully excluded. Now, again, when it comes to including or excluding services, because you can apply it the same way, but maybe you don't want to exclude 2 services. Maybe you just want to build your inclusion list, the services that you only want to have included here. So maybe it's like, okay, well, I'm going to include ground, I'm going to include ground home, and I'm going to include second day and second day AM, okay? Because these are the services that I offered my customer by contract, okay? I didn't offer any, well, let's add Express Saver as well. I didn't offer any additional service other than these, or this is what they sign up for, right? We do not include overnight services in the contract, and that's fine. I'm going to save this over here. I'm going to void again, so we can rerun a new test. Let's reprocess and let's review the rates. Let's give it a moment. Perfect. So as you can see, now we have 3 services. We have 2-day, ground, and Express Saver. Within your rules, and this is an important point that you need to take into account, even though you include services in your rules here, that doesn't mean that these services will be applicable to your shipment. What we get back in the rate section is what the carrier returned to us, right? Most likely for 2-day AM, in this case, in ground home delivery, the shipment doesn't apply. It's probably a commercial address, and it's probably not applicable for 2-day AM. So in that case, even though you might have services included here these might not be available at the time of shipping for different reasons. Maybe coverage, maybe requirements on the order, maybe thresholds that are applicable or not. That's something that the carrier will need to solve on their end. And once they return everything, then the restrictions are taking place, reviewing what you need and what you don't. Sorry, what applies and what doesn't. Now, in some cases, having a plain inclusion or exclusion list might not cut it. And maybe your scenario is much more complex than just saying, well, I want this or I want that. Maybe you're saying I want this as long as this happens, or I don't want this as long as this happens. So in that case, what you can do is switch to the advanced mode. Okay. The advanced mode has two different rule modes. One of them is deny orders matching the criteria below and allow everything else, typically when you're setting up conditions to block orders. And to be honest, my personal favorite, allow orders matching the criteria below and deny everything else. Both approaches are fine. What matters is how comfortable you feel by defining logic in a negative perspective, from a perspective of blocking elements, or a positive perspective, a perspective of defining logic for what you want and block everything that is not included in there. So I rather use allow orders matching the criteria below and block everything else. So over here, you'll see that when a service is added, the condition is always. So if I want to use ground, I'm going to have always just in the beginning, but we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. I'm just going to choose the services that I want to include, okay? So I'm going to add ground home. I'm going to add second day. I'm going to add second day AM. I'm going to add express saver and overnight services as well, okay? Express saver, first overnight, priority overnight, and standard overnight, okay? These are the services that I want to include here. I'm going to ignore many others, right? FedEx Freight, Smart Post, well, regional, international. I'm going to be ignoring those, all right? But here's the thing. Over here, you have condition always, right? For every service that you add. And you can keep it as always if you want, but most likely if you got this far, you need conditions for this. So, for example, a condition could be, I want the service as long as it makes it in 2 days or less. So over here, what you can do is through different fields, define your conditions for this. For example, here you have conditions if you were to group them in families based on geography, okay? Country, postal code, state, ship to city, all the ship to information of the order, right? Then you have order level information in terms of the package. So for example, you have maximum, minimum, volume, dimensions, weight, height, length, width. You have the package description as well. Package contents when it comes to SKUs, code or descriptions, or item quantity, and SKUs classification, as well as other elements, which could be, for example, terms, import source, ancillary endorsements, if you're shipping dangerous goods as well, class, for example, if you're shipping DG, you know that there are some dangerous goods that do not go air, right? And should go ground. So I could perfectly have a rule. It's like if the dangerous good class is 9, then try to rate shop this service and try to and block everything else, right? I don't want to try to rate shop a class which cannot be shipped air properly, or that I'm not qualified to ship via air. Why attempt it, right? It doesn't make sense. So you can catch all these elements beforehand, all right? Over here, you can also define rules based on charges and delivery days. So for example, here, I'm going to use estimated delivery days. And I'm going to say that my rule is that 2 days or less is my allowable threshold. So I'm going to apply this rule to every one of the services. As long as it takes 2 days or less, I want to take the service into account, all right? We're going to build more on these rules in a moment, okay? But I want to show you something here. Let's void this again. As you can see, remember that we had this result was with a fixed setup, all right? Right now, what we're going to do is apply this layer of logic here. I'm going to void it, and we're going to reprocess and see how it turns out. what we should be getting as part of the result are services that make it in 2 days or less, and that are applicable to the shipment. Okay. As you might remember, Express Saver was one of the options that made it in more than 2 days. So in this case, it should be out of the rate shopping, as well as any other service which is not applicable. Okay, good. Let's review now. Okay, as you can see, we got transit time here, 2 days for everything. All right, so that's good. Well, in this case, the API didn't return it for others. We might have this kind of glitch with test APIs. In production environments with production APIs, you will not have this kind of issue. Okay, but as you can see, ground was the chosen option here. Okay, there's a little markup over there and charges. So that's good. But there we have it. Now, what we could say is, and let's tweak a little bit of the packaging contents over here. Let me void. And let's add a couple of details when it comes to the order elements. So in this case, we have generic descriptions for the shipments, right? So let's imagine that we are shipping, let's say, well, let's go with the chocolate example, right? I was going to say vaccines, but it's going to take too much time to explain the context. Let's go with chocolate that might melt, right? And that requires specific conditions. Or maybe some items which upgrade your shipping. If you buy this particular SKU or SKUs within a specific promotion, then you're gonna get your shipment automatically upgraded, okay? So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna change my description, and I'm gonna say chocolate bar, premium chocolate bar, and regular chocolate bar. All right, so I bought 1 premium bar and 4 regular bars, right? What I'm gonna do is save this. And I want to add one more thing here, okay? And I'm going to re-import this order, okay, the exact same order, but I'm going to change the SKU description, okay? So we can compare one order with a premium chocolate bar and another order with regular chocolate bars, okay? And the idea here is that you get to see the system upgrade the shipping option because there's a premium chocolate bar within the shipment. I'm going to remove this one here, just leave it to regular chocolate bar and save it, okay? So over here just doesn't make any difference right now because the logic that we have doesn't have this upgrade element. But what I'm gonna do is say that I want to rate shop first overnight. As long as the shipments include, well, I'm going to grab all the overnight services, right? The cheapest one coming out, as long as there's a premium chocolate bar in the order and it makes it in 2 days or less. That's going to be my condition. And it's going to be the opposite for the other services. If they don't include chocolate bars and it makes it in less than 2 days, then use the other services, okay? So what I'm going to do right now is go SKU description. And I'm going to have an option that says at least one like, and I'm going to add the word here, premium, okay? Why do I use asterisk before and after? Because the premium word might be anywhere in the SKU description. Could be chocolate bar premium, premium bar, chocolate bar, extra premium, so on and so forth. Anything that says premium in the SKU description is going to be applicable for this, okay? And over here, I'm going to do all not like, and same thing. So I'm going to be, I'm over here, I'm splitting the waters between services that include at least one premium element within the SKU descriptions, and then another group that does not have a premium at all as part of the descriptions, okay? And I'm going to save it. Let's rate shop this one. This is the one that has the premium chocolate, and I'm gonna rate shop this one in parallel, which doesn't. Now let's see how it turns out. Okay, just a second. So here we have regular chocolate bar. Rate shopping came out fine. Okay. Oh, just a second. My bad. Um, Let me void over here. Just a moment. Let me void here as well. I might have processed too fast to let the server hit with the logic. Okay. Oh, one more thing is that when you define these, okay, it's really a matter of feeling comfortable with some options, okay? Because for example here, I could say I could just add this condition, at least one is like premium, and then do the opposite here explicitly, okay? In other cases, you might just leave it for the system to evaluate. To be honest, on my end, um, I rather use a specific option here, okay? Now in this case, okay, oh, and one more thing, the operators that you have, and this is important, uh, are, well, you could use all here, or at least one. When you use in, what you're allowing is the possibility to add many options in one element. For example, over here, I could say all in regular chocolate, right? So every SKU here is regular chocolate, or at least one is regular chocolate, right? And all not in will say, well, it should never include at all any chocolate. If you use like, you can use asterisks like over here, okay? Um, or you can use question marks. This is typically used for zip codes, for example. If you want to say, well, within this region in particular, I want to use this service or not, then use this service. But if it's shipping to another region, you can do it that way. And instead of adding a whole bunch of zip codes, you can just say, well, the zip code starts with, for example, 84, and then add 3 question marks. And that's going to include everything within the 80, beginning with 84, and any other combination of zip codes under it. Let's give it a moment and process here. Okay. So yeah, ground. I think that the test API is playing a trick on me here. It's not properly applying the logic. But well, if you define it that way, you are able to separate one thing from the other. Now, these restrictions can be cumulative and can also be different one from another. They don't need to build this way or fully build this way. You could be more specific on other things. For example, I want second day as long as it takes 2 days or less, as long as everything that it has within its regular chocolate, or maybe at least one is regular chocolate. Okay, let's say regular here. But you have weight restrictions because, or maybe for an air service, right? You might want to break the premium one in different options, saying, well, take into account first overnight, as long as it has a premium chocolate on it, but as long as it's not over a specific weight, right? Because you don't want to get slaughtered with the rates over there. So it could say weight, total weight in pounds is less or equal than, let's say, 10 pounds, right? And then you start building a structure over the other ones. Oh, 15 pounds for priority overnight and 20 pounds for standard overnight, right? And if it's within these thresholds, that's fine. But in this case, for example, you would still upgrade shipping if it makes it in 2 days or less. And depending on the weight of the order, it's say, oh, if it's over 10, just don't do first overnight. But within the 10 pound threshold, you're going to have 3 services here. If you go past it, you're going to have 2 services up to 15 pounds, right? And if the shipping is over 15 pounds, is going to be caught by standard overnight. So by doing this as well, the conditions don't need to be the same replicated for each service. You can just say, well, this is what I need to apply over here with these specific conditions. In that way, you can fine tune based on the contracts you have with the carriers and negotiated rates, what should fall within each category, okay? In this case, the examples have been particularly in that sense, estimated delivery days, SKU description, total weight, but you can be more specific, right? You can pass information in the instruction field, for example. You can pass information in the terms field over here, right? And you can have the system evaluate what you can and cannot do depending on those. Okay, if the description says fragile, I don't want to send it ground, for example. Description, sorry, instructions. If the field instruction says equals fragile, well, or it's different from fragile, then apply ground or take ground into account, right? So this is going to exclude ground whenever the instructions are fragile, okay? This other element to wrap up, which is rate shopping group, can be provided via OMR, which is what we're going to go through in the last few minutes. Rate shopping groups are basically a wildcard that you can apply within techSHIP and that can be passed over here. And maybe all this complex structure that we have for rules is not very comfortable to handle over here and can be handled somewhere else. Obviously, the delivery days can only be checked here because it's when we reach the carrier, but there's a lot of other elements that can be defined prior to reaching the carrier. For example, when you import via OMR. Now, rate shopping groups here, let's say that we have 3 rate shopping groups: free shipping, expedited, and premium, right? So I'm going to assign these blindly right now, and then I'm going to define the logic for what is free shipping or what's applicable for free shipping, what's applicable for premium, and what's applicable for expedited, okay? But I'm going to assign the services beforehand. So I'm going to say free shipping is going to be ground in the maybe express saver when it's applicable and it works. Then I'm going to have expedited, which is going to be for second day AM, and could be standard overnight as well. Over here could use in, and we'll say, well, standard overnight could be expedited, and I'm going to add another one, premium as well. When I use in, I separate values with commas. So over here, the comma would act, the comma with the in would act as an or. The condition is going to be estimated delivery days, 2 days or less, and the rate shopping group equals expedited or premium. This is how it's read, okay? And I'm then going to say equal premium for first overnight and priority overnight. So, and if any case, standard overnight is cheaper than second day or second day AM, and it's an expedited order, that could also apply to the case. And I'm going to save it here. As you can see, the rule structure here is much cleaner than what we did before. Started adding all the logic in this section. And what I'm going to do is, well, go to OMR and determine what is expedited, what is free shipping, what is premium shipping, what the conditions are when I import, okay? OMR rules allow me to import orders, okay? Import orders and review them as they go in. So maybe I want to say, if the SKU description includes at least one like premium, when it comes to the chocolate description, for example, what I'm going to do is assign it to rate shopping group premium. So this automatically upgrades the shipment to premium shipping, okay? And I'm going to save it. Now, if I add a rule here, maybe it's based in the how much I order. So, for example, in the shopping cart, you say, well, if your purchase is over $50, you're gonna get expedited shipping, okay? Or if it's over $100. So over here, I'm gonna do value, total value, equal or higher than 100, and that's gonna be my condition. My rate shopping group is gonna be expedited. So if I order a premium chocolate bar, it will automatically get, doesn't matter how many I order, because I didn't specify here in my rules how many items should be premium. I just specified that if it does have premium in the SKU description, it should upgrade to premium. But over here, I could say, well, anything that is over $100, even if I buy 5 regular chocolate bars, if it's over $100, it automatically gets pushed to the expedited services groups, okay? And these are over here, as you can see, right? And then anything that is, let's say, regular or less than a specific amount of money, let's say, where the SKU description, at least one of them, well, at least all in regular chocolate, then the value is for shipping. So anything that has regular chocolate within it, as such, only regular chocolate, is going to be free shipping. Anything else which is not is going to get upgraded to either premium or expedited if it goes over $100. And over here in these rules, you can be as specific as you want into adding more conditions, right? And also applying different actions, right? In this case, it would be a little bit extreme to ensure chocolate, but you can perfectly say so. It's like, okay, I'm going to do, well, signature flag, for example, right? So I'm going to provide you premium shipping and also add signature, drop signature flag there. So I'm sure that it's signed when received, okay? You can add as many conditions over here and as many actions as possible as well, as needed, sorry, as well. It is possible to add many elements here. I strongly suggest that if you haven't used these features yet, you go to the Need a Hand Assistant. You can type advanced restrictions, where you will get many articles going through different scenarios based on SKUs, based on order value, order information, delivery days, order weight, rate shopping groups, geographical areas, return addresses. There's a lot of options over here that you can apply for advanced restrictions, and for OMR, same scenario. Order management rules, you're going to have over here articles based on all these, using variables, how to configure these rules with different scenarios as well. But by using these two, going back to the origin of our presentation, by transferring the logic you're currently applying to the exceptions that you have in your business or the rules that you have in your business within techSHIP as such, and by knowing that you have these tools, plan ahead of time what your strategies are going to be to achieve so, you can reach that sweet spot between cost efficiency and shipping speed. It might take a little bit of time in the beginning to think about the scenarios, how these are to be handled physically within the stations, and how these should be or could be classified. But you don't need to do the heavy lifting twice when it comes to porting all this to techSHIP. When you configure the logic in techSHIP, you will forget about it. You forget about if it makes it in 2 days or less. You forget about all the conditions that need to be met, because once you have them here, the only thing that the staff needs to do, either in an office or in a packing line, is process, process, and process. And TechShip will do the hard work and the cleanup of those services that are not applicable. Well, we're on time already. Thank you for joining this webinar. This webinar will be available on our YouTube channel and will be available through our newsletter as well. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you can make the best out of TechShip and these features, and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.